Hey, what's up, guys? This is Mansplaining Mike with my 5th episode. I hope it goes better than the last ones. Um, this one is about Jonathan J. Pollard, who was an American spy, a former American intelligence analyst who was jailed for spying for Israel in 1984. He was the first spy in our history to have ever spied on us for an allied nation. I'm not saying he's the only spy to have ever worked for an allied nation, just that he was the only spy to have ever been caught and charged. Anyway, Pollard sold closely guarded state secrets, including signal intelligence. I didn't know what signal intelligence was when I read it, so I'm going to explain it to you guys because I had to learn it, and I suppose that there's probably a lot of people who don't know what it is. Signal intelligence, or SIGINT, is the act and field of intelligence gathering by interception of signals, whether communication between people, communications between intelligence, abbreviated COMINT, or from electronic signals not directly used in communication, ELINT, as classified as sensitive information, is usually encrypted. Signal intelligence may necessarily involve cryptanalysis to decipher the messages, traffic analysis, the study of who is signaling to whom, and in what quantity is also used to integrate information, and it may complement cryptanalysis. But that's not all he did. He also had disclosed the names of thousands of people who had cooperated with U.S. intelligence agencies. And that sounds like pretty serious stuff. That's espionage. I don't know how we're still talking about this guy in the present tense, like he's still alive. I thought espionage would have been charged with a piece of rope, but I guess I was wrong. Either way, he was apprehended in 1985 and then pleaded guilty to spying for and providing top secret classified information to Israel. Pollard admitted shopping his services successfully in some cases to other countries as well. In 1987, he was sentenced to life in prison for violations of the Espionage Act. I think he should have been sentenced to death. That's what I always heard happened to foreign spies. I don't know why we would keep them around. The Israeli government acknowledged the portions of its roles in Pollard's espionage in 1987. Those are some hell of allies, aren't they? And issued a formal apology to the U.S., but did not admit to paying him until 1998. What great friends we have. Over the course of his imprisonment, Israeli officials, U.S. politicians continually lobbied for a reduction or commutation of his sentence. Yeah, I'm not surprised that our bought-off politicians who bought off by AIPAC were trying to release an Israeli spy. It sounds like that might be something that AIPAC might be paying them for, but I can't be positive. Pollard said the American intelligence establishment collectively endangered Israel's security by withholding crucial information from Israel. Sounds like he was really Israel first and didn't care too much for America. Pollard's espionage was far more severe, wide-ranging, and enduring than publicly acknowledged. So we probably don't even have all the information. I don't know. I'll probably look into it more at another time and maybe do a follow-up video on this. But Pollard was released on November 20th, 2015 in accordance with federal guidelines in place at the time of his sentencing. On November 20th, 2020, his parole expired and all restrictions were removed. So he was just free to walk around like nothing happened. On December 30th, 2020, Pollard and his second wife moved to Israel and settled in Jerusalem. Not surprised. We need to get rid of these people with dual citizenship that's working in our government. I mean, you should at least have to give up your dual citizenship just in favor of American citizenship if you're going to work for the government. I mean, regular people, it shouldn't really matter, but I mean, as far as government employees, they need not to be spying, and they need not to be able to just take off and run to Israel at some point. Either way, since moving to Israel, Pollard has endorsed Itamar Ben Gavin, who was born on May 6, 1976. He's an Israeli far-right politician and lawyer who has served as the Minister of National Security since 2022. I think the whole idea that he's a right-wing politician or on the right wing at all is kind of silly. I mean, they just attribute everything evil to the right wing, even though it's pretty clear that Israel has a pretty left-leaning government in a lot of aspects. I mean, they get free health care, they get free college, it's paid for by us, so they have communism based off of us paying for their socialism, I guess would be a better term for it. Ben Gavin is also the Minister of National Security since 2022. He is the leader of Atzma Yehuda, a Kahanist and anti-Arab party that won 6 seats in 2022 Israel legislative election and is part of what has been called the most right-wing government in Israel's history. Ben Gavin is also a settler in the West Bank, and he called for the expulsion of Arab citizens of Israel who are not loyal to Israel and has faced criminal charges of hate speech against Arabs. He is widely known for his openly racist, anti-Arab views and activities. Ben Gavin was also previously convicted of supporting kacke, classified by Israel as a terrorist group, which espoused Kahanism, the anti-Arab and religious Zionist ideology. In the 1990s, he protested against the Oslo Accords and was seen brandishing a Cadillac hood ornament stolen from Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin's car, who was later assassinated. Seems like a pretty nice guy, this Ben Gavin. Why wouldn't anybody support him to be a politician, right? It's crazy, man. Ben Gavin was known to have a portrait in his living room of Baruch Goldstein, a Jewish extremist and Israeli-American mass murderer who massacred 29 Palestinian Muslim worshippers and wounded 125 others in the 1994, Cave of the Patriarchs massacre in Hebron. He removed the portrait after he entered politics. In 2007, Ben Gavin was found guilty in an Israeli court of inciting support to a racist terrorist organization. Ben Gavin had been long accused of being a provocateur, having led several contentious marches to the Temple Mount as an activist and member of the Knesset through Jerusalem's Old City Muslim Quarter, and set up an office in the Sheikh Jarrah neighborhood, which witnessed several evictions of Palestinians. On the 3rd of January 2023, he visited the Temple Mount where the Al-Aqsa Mosque is located. I heard that now the Israelis want to level the Al-Aqsa Mosque and replace it with the temple that's going to be dedicated to the false Messiah or the Antichrist. I mean, I use the word Antichrist because any Messiah that's not Christ would be Antichrist. Sorry about that. I needed a little water. My mouth is getting dry. But anyway, that spurred an international wave of criticism that labeled his visit purposely provocative. As a lawyer, Ben Gavin, he is known for defending Jews accused of terrorism on trial in Israel. In 2024, he was the subject of a foiled assassination plot by 7 Arab citizens of Israel and 4 Palestinians from the West Bank. Wow, this guy seems like a great guy to look up to. This Pollard guy seemed like a real wild man. And then I decided I wanted to look up what is a Kahanist. I think we need to know what it is that we're talking about. I mean, we heard a little bit about it, far right, anti-Arab, but I think we need to get more into what it is, so I looked it up. I just thought it would be a good addition to what we were talking about with John Pollard, since it's came up so many times. So Kahanism, again, is a religious Zionist ideology based on the views of Rabbi Meir Kahane. I'd like to point out that a religious Zionist ideology, this came up twice, so they consider Zionism to be a religion. So why are they called Jewish? They're the fake Jews according to the Bible, Revelations 3:9 anyway. The Jewish Defense League and the kacke party in Israel. I'm sorry about that. There's even a flag of kacke. Kahane held the view that most Arabs living in Israel are enemies of Jews and Israel itself, and believed that a Jewish theocratic state where non-Jews have no voting rights should be created. So Christians wouldn't have voting rights either. Or most of the people in America, for that matter, because America is mostly Christian. We have Muslims. Muslims wouldn't be accepted there. Atheists wouldn't be accepted there. Agnostics wouldn't be accepted there. So they seem not only, they just seem really racist, I guess is the best way to put it. The kacke party has been banned by the Israel government in 2004. The U.S. State Department designated it a foreign terrorist organization. But in 2022, when Joe Biden was president, it was removed from the U.S. terrorist blacklist due to insufficient evidence of the group's ongoing activity. But it remains a specifically designated globalist terrorist entity. Also, the kacke party voiced support for a population transfer to move Gaza's Arabs to Ireland. Their supporters are also responsible for Jewish terrorist attacks on other religions. The deadliest Jewish terrorist attack occurred when Baruch Goldstein, we just heard about him earlier, Gavir had a picture of Goldstein on his wall in his home. So he really loved this Goldstein fellow, who was a supporter of kacke. And he shot and killed 29 Muslim worshippers and wounded another 150 at the Cave of the Patriarch Massacre in Hebron in 1994. This was described as a case of Jewish religious terrorism by Mark Jorgensmeyer. Goldstein was a medical doctor who grew up in Brooklyn and was educated at the Albert Einstein College of Medicine in the Bronx. That's not surprising. A lot of these Jewish settlers come from like New York and New Jersey, and they just want to go get free welfare. So they go move to Israel and settle Palestinians' homes. And that's what he did. He resettled in the Kiryat Arba settlement in the West Bank and was politically active for years. Goldstein saw Kahane as a hero and was Kahane's campaign manager when he ran for the Israeli parliament through the kacke party. When Goldstein was threatened with a court-martial for refusing to treat non-Jewish soldiers in the Israel Defense Force, he declared, "I am not willing to treat any non-Jew." That sounds like it came straight from the Talmud. They hate all of the religion, every other religion. That's their main religious book. But I'll digress. Keep going with the story. I recognize as legitimate only two religious authorities, Maimonides and Kahane. Yoel Lerner, in October of 19... Oh, so this is another terrorist. His name is Yoel Lerner. He was another Jewish terrorist. In October 1982, Lerner, a member of Kahane's kacke, attempted to blow up the Dome of the Rock in order to rebuild the Temple Mount site. He was sentenced to 2.5 years in prison. Mark George identified him as a Jewish religious terrorist, writing that he yearned for a Jewish society in Israel He hoped for the restoration of the ancient temple in Jerusalem, the exclusive right of Jews to settle on the west bank of the Jordan River, and the creation of a state based on biblical law. Okay, this can't be accurate. He couldn't want anything based on biblical law. There's a huge separation between Judaism and biblical law. Like there is no Judeo-Christian values. That's just a myth. Their morals are completely different than Christian morals, especially the Zionists, which is what we're talking about. I'm not talking about every Jewish person. There's different sects of Judaism. I don't know about all the different sects, but I know that anybody who believes in the Talmud would espouse the same ideologies as these men here, like Ben Gavin. I mean, the Talmud inherently is a pretty racist book. I suggest everybody at least look into it. If you don't read the whole thing, at least read parts of it that you might consider to be important. Anyway, he wants a state. It's based on just Jewish people being there. He doesn't want any other religions there, which is also why it makes it interesting that they call it biblical law, because in the Bible, Christ said to the Jews from Judea, the Jews that will be accepted into the land of Israel are those who bow their knee to Christ. That's not what these guys did, for sure. But anyway, he had previously served a 3-year sentence for heading a group that plotted to overthrow the government and establish a state based upon religious law. Then another one was named Eden Natanzada. This is another terrorist that was part of the kacke party, I guess. And Eden Natanzada on August 4, 2005, Eden Natanzada, an AWOL Israel Defense Forces soldier, killed 4 Israel Arab citizens and wounded several other when he opened fire on a bus in the northern Israel town of Shefrim. Natanzada. Oh, from Shefrim. Natanzada had that's where my family is from, that's why I paused. It's Shefrim. Natanzada had recently moved to the settlement of Tapuak, site of a Kahanist yeshiva. He was handcuffed by Israeli police, but then lynched by a mob. I didn't really come across that earlier. I just did a quick read-through of all this, and I'm reacting to it and talking to you guys as I read it. But Shefrim is where my father came from. So the attack on the citizens he did was he wounded people from Shefrim. So, yeah, I mean, I guess that kind of hit close to home, you know. Alleged Kahanist violence, roadside shootings, stabbings, and grenade attacks against Palestinians have been carried out in Jerusalem and the West Bank by individuals or groups suspected of having ties to the former kacke group. Aliases such as the Committee for the Safety of the Roads, the Sword of David, and the Repression of Traitors have been used. The U.S. government claims that these are all aliases of kacke. In 2002, a Kahanist group known as Revenge of the Toddlers claimed the responsibility for a bombing attack at Sun Bahar in East Jerusalem secondary school for Arab boys that wounded 7. The group also claimed responsibility for the 2003 bombing of a Palestinian school in Jabba that injured 20 and was also thought to be linked to the 2002 Zil Elementary School bombings. Yeah, that's hard to read. They're just murdering Palestinian kids and stuff. And they're not considered terrorists, you know? I mean, just that group, but it's the Zionists overall. It's the Zionist ideology that feeds these people. Gives them the ideas that they're the chosen ones and that they can do whatever they want. We're going to get into Pollard's earlier life now. And this is pretty much going to be the last section I'm going to cover today. Like I said, maybe I'll do another one where I talk more about it. But at an early age, Pollard became aware of the horrific toll of the Holocaust had taken on his immediate family on his mother's side of the family, the Kleins, from Vilna in Lithuania And shortly before his bar mitzvah, he asked his parents to visit the Nazi death camps. Pollard's family made a special effort to instill a sense of Jewish identity in their children, which included devotion to the cause of Israel. They were born in America. Why would they need a Jewish identity? They just need an American identity. I mean, everything that they say about this guy is anti-American in every sense. I haven't heard too much of his love for America at all, but somehow he became an analyst for the Department of Defense or National Security. It's really disturbing that this could go on and that these people are selected without even really looking into them, it seems. Because, I'm just doing a quick search and I've been able to find all of this. Imagine what I would be able to find if I had the FBI's computing systems and computing powers behind what I was doing. But Pollard grew up with what he called a racial obligation to the Jews, I would suppose is what he's talking, the Ashkenazi Jews specifically. Oh, to Israel. I don't understand what race would that be. The Ashkenazis are European Jewish people. They would be the same race as every other European, I would think. But I'm going to digress from that and state my opinion. Anyway, he felt this racial obligation to Israel, not the United States. And he made his first trip to Israel in 1970 as part of a science program, visiting the Weizmann Institute of Science in Rehovot. While there, he was hospitalized after a fight with another student. One Weizmann scientist remembered Pollard as leaving behind a reputation of being a troublemaker. After completing high school, Pollard attended Stanford University, where he completed a degree in political science in 1976. While there, he is remembered by several of his acquaintances as having boasted that he was a dual citizen of the United States and Israel. See why we need to get those guys out of our government? He was one of them. Claiming to have worked for the Mossad. I said I thought he might have worked for them. It seems like I might have been right. To have attained the rank of colonel in the Israeli Defense Forces. Even sending himself a telegram addressed to Colonel Pollard. That sounds pretty psychotic. He's going really far into this to make up this lie. It had to be a lie if he was writing to himself and calling himself a colonel. And he also has said that he had killed an Arab while on guard duty at a kibbutz. He also claimed that his father, Morris Pollard, was a CIA operative and to have fled Czechoslovakia as a child during the Prague Spring in 1968. When his father's CIA role was later discovered, none of these claims were true. Later, Pollard enrolled in several graduate schools, but never completed a postgraduate degree. But he somehow worked for the intelligence agencies. So they're definitely not trying to pick the most intelligent, even though that they're in the intelligence force. I don't know what qualified this man to work for any intelligence agency. He seems to be an intelligence asset for Israel, and he seems to not really care for America too much. Well, that's pretty much it for today, anyway. We heard about it, and I read through it, and this is like my third time through this, and I don't see how he would have been hired as an intelligence analyst for America. It just doesn't make any sense to me. It blows my mind, but I don't know how a lot of these politicians are being funded by AIPAC. I don't understand how a lot of these politicians also have dual citizenship with Israel. I don't understand how a lot of our politicians are putting Israel's borders before the American borders. I just know something needs to be done about it. And I'm just throwing out ideas like maybe people with dual citizenship should not be able to be part of our government, or maybe they should at the very minimum have to give up their dual citizenship, because things like this happening in our country are only weakening us and making us look weak to other countries. Like Israel have to look at us like a joke, because on top of this there was also the USS Liberty attacks It seems like everything that they do, we just let them get away with it. Yeah, I mean, now more than ever, I say, let's free America from Zionism. We need to get these Zionists out of our government. 100%. All right, guys, have a good one. I hope you enjoyed the podcast. I hope I did better than previously. In my mind, I think I did anyway, but I hope you guys agree. All right, everybody, have a good one.